So yeah, new album just came out last month, right? Just under a month ago.
Yeah, December 8th.
And that's Beyond the Rain. How's that doing so far?
Oh, we've got a lot of positive feedback from the fans so far. I'm pretty I don't think I could be happier. I mean, I honestly, if I feel good about the album, that's what counts because, we're making music that we want to that we're proud of, but it's always great when you get good fan response, and I feel like we've got good reviews as well, so it's going pretty good.
Well, in this day and age, nobody's getting rich making music, um, except for the rap stuff, Eminem and Mariah Carey and people like that. But for people like us, it's really all about you just got to love what you're doing, and we do. And we've put out three really good albums that have been really well received. So it's been it's a labor of love just like for everybody else, but we love our labor.
Well, that's good, right? Because obviously it is tough out there to make it in the music business. It seems like it keeps getting more difficult too, and especially for rock and metal bands, it's always kind of been a rough road.
Yeah, it's the internet ruined the music business, and the pirating has cost us and every other band out there millions of dollars in lost revenue. But it's just once the genie's out of the bottle, you can't put it back in.
Right. How about streaming? Does that how does that affect you guys? Legal
uh,
streaming like Spotify and services
right.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, those services, I think the bottom line on those services is they're they don't make much money for the artist, but they help the artist get their name out there. Um, so it's just sort of, in our case, since we're not touring, it doesn't, it's not a big benefit for us to be on those streaming stations. But of course, it's fun for the fans. It's good for them.
Right. It seems like on one hand it's great you get all this exposure, but it just seems like it's too much now. People don't really know where to go. Everything's very diluted.
Oh, absolutely. That's also one of the problems for the bands is there's so many bands. Like you said, there's so many media outlets. It's just all over the place. So it's hard to stand out. It's hard to capture the attention of fans. It just gets harder every year.
That's the problem. The main downside of the internet. I mean, there's a lot of good things about the internet, but one of the bad things for bands is that every band it sort of levels the playing field out. Whereas in the old days, like back when I was in Vicious Rumors and doing the records on Shrapnel and Atlantic, there were really only a handful of bands around the world that were signed record deals and that were touring. And if you didn't have a record deal, nobody knew who you were. But this day it's like every band from the shittiest on the planet to the greatest on the planet and everything in between is jamming their stuff onto the internet, and it kind of makes it tougher to stand out because everybody and their grandmother's on trying to promote their product. The main thing is about creating art and the passion for making music, and that's why we do it. And if we sell 5,000 CDs or 50,000 CDs or 5 million CDs, it all really starts with you have to just have the love of doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's obviously the most important part.
Yeah.
Speaking of, the love for the music. Obviously, there's a ton of passion in your guys' music. I like it. It's I guess you'd say it's metal, but it's so much more than that, though. How would you guys describe your sound?
Well, I always describe it as our roots are in classic traditional metal with a modern edge. I don't know,
Right.
with modern twist. I guess that's how I describe it.
Because there's a lot of talented bands out there. There's a lot of great musicians out there. One of the that kind of helps set us aside from the pack we're writing great music, and we're very competent players and singers. But the fact that London's a woman, uh, singing a style of, when most people think of women in metal today, they think of all these Nightwish clone bands out there, and we don't have anything to do with that at all. Uh, London's roots are in early Priest, Dio, Queensryche, that kind of stuff, and so she gets compared to Rob Halford a lot and early Jeff Tate, and that really makes us. There's not a lot of bands doing what we're doing. First of all, there's not a lot of bands that are husband and wife team. Not a lot of bands with a woman singer doing the kind of stuff that we're doing. So it does make it, and the quality of the material is really strong. So it makes this kind of a rather unique situation.
Absolutely. Now, do you both write the majority of the songs? Do you bring in other people? What's your process?
No, we do everything ourselves. We've written every note of everything ourselves. Aside from the last album, we did a promo track for Japan, and we did a cover of Black Sabbath Neon Nights. But other than that, everything we do ourselves. I basically write a rough outline of the music on the guitar, have London record it on our recording gear in the studio, and then she works on the lyrics and the melodies, and we basically just go back and forth and put the song together, and that's how we've done it for 3 albums now.
Nice. Now, as you said, right now you're not on the road. If you do have plans to go on the road, would you pick up another member, or would you go out as a 3-piece?
We would have to, because I play all the guitars and bass on our albums.
Right, that's what I was wondering. That was why I asked that. Yeah.
I do the job of 3 people in the band, and London does all the vocals, and whenever we need keyboards, she does the keyboard. So yeah, if we were to tour, which we're not touring right now, but if we were to tour, we'd have to get a bass player, another guitar player, maybe who could double as on keyboards.
Wildestarr.com, that's where everyone could get the album and find out what's going on with you guys, right?
Yeah, WILDESTARR.com.
Okay, and then you're obviously on social media as well.
Yeah, we're on Facebook. Dave and I have individual Facebook pages, and then there's also a band page.
So when you guys were both growing up, what were your musical influences?
The band that put the guitar or bass in my hands was Kiss. Friend back in 1976, friend loaned me Kiss Alive. That kind of changed my life, and really got off on the energy and the whole craziness of the whole thing. And then for me, it's Priest, Thin Lizzy, and Kiss are the kind of the big 3 that made me who I am today. And
well, I grew up listening to Deep Purple and Black Sabbath, and so when Richie Blackmore's Rainbow came out, I became a Dio fan, and so Dio and early Queensryche and Judas Priest would probably be my top 3 influences.
Now, Thin Lizzy was real instrumental because I learned, because the guitar harmonies were so fundamentally important in that band. I did kind of sit down. There was a period where I did go through a lot of Thin Lizzy stuff and broke down harmonies note for note, where I was, and that's kind of how I learned how to play guitar harmonies was by listening to Thin Lizzy. So that was a big help, because although we don't really sound like Thin Lizzy, you can hear the Thin Lizzy influence because of I do a lot of guitar harmonies, and that's a direct result of my Thin Lizzy influences. I call it our wall of sound. We do a lot of layered multi-guitar parts and guitar harmonies to try to just make everything just sound as big as possible. Sometimes you listen to some metal and it's just very stiff, you hear a guitar, a bass, a drums and somebody singing, but our stuff kind of has a tendency to sound 10 miles wide, and that's done by design.
Yeah, it is a very big sound, and then obviously London, the vocals are just very dynamic, which is incredible. And I love that with the metal because sometimes metal can get just a little, you get in that groove with it, but this just kind of pulls you out from the music.
Just like Dave has a lot of colors, if you will, in his guitar playing, I like to have a lot of color in the vocals where there's, more than one. I mean, my ears would get tired if I listened to a whole album that everything was the same. So I try and keep that in mind when I'm writing, try and maybe just mix it up a little bit. Because I'm an album oriented person, when I buy an album, I like to listen to the whole thing. I don't just listen to one song. I know a lot of people just listen to one song these days, but I'm old school. I like to enjoy the whole thing. And so, yeah, I try and keep it interesting in the vocals.
Absolutely. Now I know this album. I'd read it's a very personal album. Writing something like this, is that difficult to do? Is this something you have to struggle and make a decision if you want to do it, or is it just something that you just know you need to do?
Well, and I knew I needed to do it pretty quickly, but as working on it wasn't easy to get in the right frame of mind because you have to go there emotionally to commit. I don't sing things that I don't 100% feel inside. I just don't. That's so when this album was telling a story, and there's definitely chapters to the story, and some of them were more intense and difficult to put my headset into my mindset. And sometimes I felt uh, it I had after effects, just emotionally. It wasn't easy to go there, but it was even harder to get out of that headspace. Let's say I'd worked on the song or I recorded, and then it just would linger with me. And yeah, it was hard, but worth it. I don't shy away from things that are hard. It almost makes me want to do it more when it's hard.
Well, it was a tough thing for London to do for those who aren't aware of it, or maybe just finding out about it for the first time. This album is basically a conceptual piece that, and London lyrically wrote it around her relationship with her brother, who was also a musician who tragically committed suicide in 2012. So it was, sometimes it's, well, you got to do what you got to do, and what we do is we make music. And London made it, a conscious decision to channel her grief and of this tragedy into making, telling a story through our music, which I applaud her for. I don't know if I could have done that.
Yeah, that had to be difficult. I mean, it's a brave thing to do for sure. And then, and even just sharing this story too, because London, you certainly
Well,
could have written it and not even told anyone what it was about. So
I,
that's a
I,
very big thing.
I actually, I did consider writing it and not telling what it was about. But after everything I went through, it was almost like that would just be a shame if I didn't. I mean, I just knew I had to. By the time I was getting close to finishing, I was like, I have to. I mean, I didn't 100% know when I started this if I was gonna reveal what it was about, but yeah, it just wouldn't have made sense any other way.
Well, absolutely. In that way too, people relate to music. And that's just something else that people can, other people are going through such tragedies as well, something that they could use to help themselves.
Absolutely, that's one of the motivating factors is if you can raise somebody or let someone come to some new thought or realization, those are all things that are important to me.
Anything else you guys want to add that you guys have coming up in the works or you want people to know about Wildestarr?
Well, just that the new album's out. They can buy it at most of the local. The usual Amazon, Best Buy, all the usual affiliates online. You can also buy them directly through us. We personally, people who buy the CDs directly from us through our website, we personally autograph them at no extra charge. We've almost run out of our first batch of CDs, which is a good thing. So yeah, they've been flying like hotcakes.